Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today with Provana and Valor Intelligent Processing on looking beyond call centers for your collection strategy in 2020. I'm Ann Danhausen, Manager of Business Development and Strategic Alliances at Provana, and I will be your moderator today. For those of you who are listening to a recording of the webinar, we will ask that you submit questions to marketing@provana.com, and we will be sure to have Gordon and Karan get back to you with answers to your questions. So let me introduce our panelists today. We have Gordon Beck, President and COO of Valor Intelligent Processing. Hi, Gordon.
Hello, Ann. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And then we also have Karan Mathur, Product Manager, Consumer Experience at Provana. Hey, Karan.
Hi, Ann. Excited to be here.
Great. So for some bios, Gordon has 20 years of experience with expertise in the recovery of wireless, landline, cable, satellite, internet, VoIP, and financial institutions. He is known as a motivator, educator, and great public speaker in the industry, participating in panels, debates, and several individual speeches at industry-related events, as well as contributing articles and content to several call center publications. Currently, he is the President, COO, and minority shareholder of Valor Intelligent Processing, a new organization in the ARM industry specializing in BPO and third-party collections. Karan Mathur is the Product Manager for Contact Center Solutions at Provana. He has over 6 years experience in the ARM industry with a focus on conceptualizing and delivering technology solutions. He is currently managing iConnect 24/7, Provana's omnichannel consumer engagement platform, and iCap, Provana's integrated call analytics platform, both focused on enhancing consumer experience and gaining operational efficiency through technology. He has worked with over 20 contact centers in effectively implementing technology solutions and realizing ROI. All right, welcome again to you both. So let's get started here. We are here today bringing this topic to you because as we roll into 2020, there's a pretty significant gap between how consumers want to interact with us and what we're delivering to them in terms of interaction options. So 83% of consumers prefer paying their bills online, though less than 15% of revenue comes through online payments. So how do we leverage this opportunity? That is what we're going to talk about today in this webinar. Our aim is to really answer this question, and we've broken it down into 4 parts. So first, why collections should go the omnichannel way? How can omnichannel improve agent efficiency? Game-changing features of omnichannel platforms for you to implement, and how omnichannel leads to improved CX and why that matters. I think before we dive into each of these individually, Gordon, omnichannel is a pretty buzzy word in the industry. Can you explain what it means?
Quite simply, omnichannel is basically giving multiple avenues of communication for a consumer to conduct business. This is up and beyond the traditional ways of only telephone and by mail. It could mean a very, very wide array of things from online apps to chatbots, text and email, and omnichannel is the future of our industry. It's giving the consumers that option to choose the avenue that they want to speak.
Absolutely. Thanks for kicking that off. Let's talk first about why collections should go the omnichannel way. And the first thing we wanted to highlight is really that the consumer habits are changing and really should then therefore change your customer touch points. US smartphone users send and receive 5 times more texts than they make and receive calls. Compliance mistakes are more likely when you're dealing with humans versus an automated solution. And consumers prefer to handle their private matters like debt online or through applications. Karan, what have you seen in regards to why collections needs to go the omnichannel way?
Right. So, how Gordon was mentioning that it's about giving consumer the choice. And, whether they want to interact via SMS, whether it's email or they're self-servicing through a website or a mobile app. So we really do see consumers opting in more for these digital channels. And omni-channel, in my opinion, it's about seamless interaction across channels. So, if a consumer send an email that are about their account, then if they can get a response back on the email, and if they log into any of these self-service channels, they see whatever requests they made being completed on that channel as well. So it's really about that seamless experience that the consumers get across the different channels. And then again, from a company perspective, also, they're able to map the entire consumer journey across these channels in a single sort of view, rather than having to go through these different channels or different systems where they're seeing, okay, the consumer sent this through email or they did this through the online channel. For them also, it's all mapped into this one single view.
To piggyback off of what Karan was saying, in a world that we live in of call blocking, blacklisting, spam likely, we really need to modernize the avenues of communication to level or increase contact rates. Right now, more and more consumers are technologically literate, and they actually prefer to handle uncomfortable and private matters online or through applications where it doesn't have to deal with another human being on a telephone, for example. Another reason is compliance mistakes are more likely with dealing specifically with humans. So from a compliance perspective, setting up your omni-channel ways of communication in a way that's fail-proof for compliance is a home run when talking about why we must go this direction. Right now, the options are really endless. They're affordable, they're efficient, and it's kind of an exciting time for everybody in our industry that we can utilize technology to increase not only the customer satisfaction, but also to increase revenues and to do things, in a way that is modern and keeping up with the times.
Yep, absolutely. The consumers kind of want to be in those other channels, so let's meet them there. And then we've also found that omnichannel can improve agent efficiency as well, and we'll talk about how. A couple of the areas we've seen is in promoting self-service as much as possible with your consumers. It reduces the calls to agents by 30%, speeds up the issue resolution, increases agents' operational efficiency, and frees up agents for more complicated cases. Gordon, what have you seen in regards to improving agent efficiency?
Well, one thing is, allowing the customer to choose their method of communication quite simply means you're going to have more consumers resolving their debts, because a lot of consumers that would not normally call and speak to an agent would ignore it. When given the option to do something without having that uncomfortable interaction, they're going to do it. Things like text messaging and letter tagging to promote the use of payment tools and web apps online, it draws attention and it drives participation by the consumers. For example, low balance filtering by agents, directing smaller accounts through the web and through apps, and letting agents handling the ones that are more profitable for the company or may take another degree or level of expertise. Agents can even launch limited context text messaging in congruence with their normal dialing and reach out to 2 or 3 times as many consumers, again, directing them to these self-pay and self-cure apps. The options and the ways to improve efficiency are endless. And I'm sure Karan can even add some more to that.
Yeah, absolutely, Gordon. And I mean, it really allows the agents to do a lot more with their time. I mean, if we just look at the numbers, what we've seen is that on an average, the right party contact rate for a collection agency is not more than 7 to 8%. That means if they're taking 100 calls in a day, they're probably talking to the right party contact or the actual consumer on just 8 or 10 of those calls. So while they are actually on the dialer waiting to connect with the consumer, they could be on multiple live chat sessions talking to other consumers. They could be responding back to SMS or emails. So really allowing the agent to do a lot more, and from a company perspective, really get more ROI from a single agent. And even additional features that we've seen around in these omni-channel platforms is that it allows automated responses, pre-scripted responses. So it really lets you be more efficient in terms of your responses, because some of them are very standard. And we were talking about compliance as well. There is no risk of agents missing giving out certain disclosures or using certain language that could be considered deceptive or could incur some compliance risk.
For sure, Karan, thanks. And I think as we start talking about some of these features, there are some specific game-changing features that are inherent within these omni-channel platforms. Can you guys each kind of dive in a little bit and elaborate on some of the benefits of these top game-changing features that we see? Things like virtual debt negotiation tools, chatbot, text, email with push notifications, and e-signatures.
You know, at one point, you know, having when this technology first came about in other arenas, it would ultimately end up with the agent right back on the phone, you know, with the consumer, which is what we're trying to avoid. That defeats the purpose of omnichannel and giving them opportunities. Having true virtual debt negotiation tools that are aligned with your customers and your clients' needs and requirements allows the consumer to not just have another channel of communication, but to have another channel of communication where they can conduct that business deal from cradle to grave without once speaking to a human. These options now are so much more robust. The ability to settle bills for a certain percentage, to accept this, not accept that, having all of the parameters set in, and to have that negotiator give the consumer something that is not just going to drive them back to the phones at the call center is the game changer in my mind. That option is huge.
Absolutely agreed there, Gordon. And so omni-channel, the goal should be to really replicate an agent. Like, what would they do on a phone call? And where debt negotiation is concerned, it's really about presenting the option to the consumer that works best for everyone, and really making them feel in control of how they want to resolve their account. So having rules set up that could be client specific or the type of debt, and just allow the consumers to set up how they want to resolve the account that works best for them. And even if I talk a little bit about chatbots, that again brings back to the whole efficiency aspect as well, where yes, the consumer can initiate a live chat session with an actual agent, but through these chatbots, the goal remains that through a conversational way, try to redirect a consumer to some of these self-service options out there, so that there is no real manual intervention required. And for text and email, there are reports that show that consumers these days do respond more to text and email messages that go out as opposed to phone calls. So definitely if their consumers are receiving notifications about a payment due through an email where they can just click in, log in and make the payment and get it done, that's really is a game changer.
Yeah, and Karan, just to add on to the point that you just made, we have some numbers here as well in regards to consumers' preference for digital channels. 73% of customers in late delinquency made a payment when contacted through a digital channel. 77% made partial or full payments when contacted by text, and 58% with email contact. So, you know, those are pretty good numbers that we do want to take advantage of. Finally, let's get into CX, or customer experience. How can omnichannel lead to improved customer experience, and why does that matter? We love that final advantage of customer experience improvement. Gordon, do you want to tackle that?
You know, consumers historically, as it relates to collections and recovery, they've not really had any other choice but to speak to an agent. If you think back in the years, 15 years ago, for example, it was either you spoke to the agent or you communicated in writing via mail. You know, whether buying a washing machine or paying a debt, consumers want options. And they want options that are robust enough that they can actually achieve what they're setting out to achieve. They don't want options that are so acute that they end up in the never-ending funnel, back doing the same things, getting us all the same results. Having these channels is the difference between being average and good and being good and great. If an agency has, I guess the best way to put it is, if you have the most lines in the water, you're going to catch the most fish. If an agency has phone, email, and web, as we historically have all had, they're going to collect their money as they always did. But the agency that goes a step further and has those three options, but then adds in the chatbots, adds in the apps, adds in the text messaging, those three channels, in addition to the historical customary channels we're used to, there is no possible way that adding those channels does not equate to more dollars. And it's all about making the investment, knowing that it's going to work, believing in it, and realizing that it's an affordable and there's many options out there.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, so from our speech analytics solution, we've seen that, we've looked at over 10 million calls. And when we look at like, why are consumers not happy, or what's the reason why they're complaining? And one of the major reasons that comes up is that, I've been put on hold for 5 minutes just to talk to an agent to make a payment. And even when we look at calls on which we actually get payments, or consumer are able to set up some sort of resolution on their account, those calls take anywhere between 8 to 9 minutes. And this includes like the disclosures that the agents have to give, providing consumers all the options, if they're putting them on hold to get some more information, or getting confirmation from the supervisors, and then finally gathering the payment information. That's a long time. And if we look at the same interaction through an omni-channel self-service portal, this can be done in less than 5 minutes. The consumer can do it at their own pace without having to talk to an agent, without being put on hold. And from company perspective, all this happened without any manual intervention.
Yep, love the idea of being able to increase revenue, decrease costs, and improve the customer experience at the same time. So for all of you listening, I hope you all understand why we feel so strongly about the power of omnichannel solutions. And really, as you roll out your 2020 strategy, we suggest that you ensure your strategies be tailored to keeping up with consumers' changing habits and their preferences, empowering consumers through self-service application, enabling features such as virtual debt negotiations and digital payments, and enhancing agents' operational efficiency. Karan, Gordon, would love to hear if you had anything else to add here.
We've been through so many eras in our industry over the last decade and a half. The TCPA era, the CFPB era, the era of litigious consumers and lawsuits, the era of security and compliance. And every one of those eras, although it made us better in the end, it's all things that we spent money on to protect our money. And I believe that we're entering a new era now in collections and recovery. It's an era of, I believe, not only efficiency, but prosperity. And I said this at a tech conference not long ago. In our business right now, in the modern era of collections, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single tech. And that's no pun intended. Technology is everything. We have to have the courage to embrace it, the courage to know that we can afford it, and to be able to work with our vendors to make that possible, and to utilize everything at our advantage. Because if we have more options, we'll make more money. And if we stay ahead of the technological curve, we can change the way that bill collections is done, and it can be great for all sides of the aisle.
You're here.
Yeah, and just to add on top of
Karan.
that, from what we've seen from implementations or perspective with the technological advancements, onboarding an omni-channel solution is no longer an endless process, or it's not like any enterprise solution implementation that can be disruptive to your existing process. Most of these items are bolt-on that easily integrate with your existing infrastructure, whether it's your collection software or your existing payment processing. And really, you can onboard an omni-channel rather quickly. From my experience in implementing these omni-channel solutions, our clients have gone live within 30 days.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a good lead in here for me here to talk about iConnect 24/7. If anyone out there is wondering where to find one of these amazing omni-channel solutions, we suggest you do check out iConnect 24/7, which is Provana's self-service omni-channel web and mobile platform. If you'd like to learn more, you can head to our website or contact marketing@provana.com, and we can get you some additional information. But yeah, that kind of wraps things up for us today. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us. If you have any questions, please email them to marketing@provana.com, and we will be sure to get the best response from Gordon, Karan, and or Provana. Or feel free to reach out to Gordon or Karan directly. Their contact information is on the screen here. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Karan. And thanks to our listeners. Everyone have a great day.